All right, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. My name is Robert Linkle. My wife, Keegan, is sitting to my left. Give her a quick shout out. Let's do this really quick. Look at this lunch. Look at this lunch. All greens and a massive steak. Look at that. Look at that thing. Girl knows how to eat. She's not messing around. Anyway, there's the boss. Nice to meet you all. If you don't know us, if this is your first time here, welcome. We appreciate you all being here. Apologies for the chat box not working. We do have the Q&A box up. So if you have questions or comments you want to make as we go along, please feel free to do so. So I want to pretty much just kind of dive into this. If you don't know me at this point, I'm going to do a very quick little review of me, but you can always pop over to YouTube or over to trainingtheolderadult.com and check about our history and education and all that kind of stuff too. I don't want to bore everybody too much, and so I'm super quick going to go into it, but I want to get into the content and get everybody going. This is our presentation's about 8 slides long. That's it, and I'm going to give them to you all. Afterwards, we will email the list of everybody registered. We'll send you the PDFs. But if you want to take screen grabs, you want to take notes as we go, I'm going to give you all of the sections. There's 3 lifts at 3 different levels. So really there's 9 of them. Look at the camera, look at me real quick. So these are the ones we're going to go over. You don't have to grab this. I'm going to show you the full screenshot here in a minute. But those are the 9 lifts that we're going to go over, okay? 3 lifts, 3 different components in different movement actions at 3 different levels. And those levels mirror this little chart that we've created where you have your active ager. I'm not a huge fan of putting numbers on people, but if we had to put a number on somebody, okay? If I had to do a chronological order of someone, I would say this person is 45 to 50 up to 70-ish or in exceptionally good shape, okay? And they have multiple physical limitations, but manageable for sure. They're able to get up and down off the floor. They can climb stairs. They can carry load. They are a low fall risk at this point, and they can participate in sport. That's where we would consider them an active ager. So I'm going to give you ultimately the 7th, 8th, and 9th version of these lifts are targeted at them, okay, the active agers. The middle group is your older adult. And if, again, we have to throw numbers on them, 50 to 70, so it's still the same age group, but they have multiple physical limitations. They struggle to get up and down off the floor, struggle to go up and down stairs. And by struggle, I mean they can do it, but it's not easy for them. They can't just like right up the stairs. That's an official noise, by the way. You do that if it's easy for you. But if not, it's more like, there's a struggle to it. I made a video recently about someone who struggles going upstairs. If you want to pop over to YouTube and watch that, you'll see what I'm talking about there. And or struggles with carrying load, and then they are a moderate fall risk, okay? So we're gonna give you exercises 4, 5, and 6. That'll target the older adults. And then exercises 1, 2, and 3, they're gonna target, this is a industrial term. I know people don't like the word, the saying frail elder, but specifically the word frail. People seem to have a big issue with it. And I get it. It's not a nice word to describe anybody by. It does mean weakness and incapability, more or less, if you're labeling somebody with that. But this is a reality of our world and where we are training folks at certain levels. They're 70 to 90-ish, somewhere in there, or they have multiple physical limitations. They're unable to get up and down off the floor. They cannot go up and down stairs. They are unable to carry loads, and they are a high fall risk. That's what we would call a frail elder. Now, there are betweeners, okay? There are people that are active agers that are kind of transitioning into older adult, and you might be, well, they're kind of in the middle. My goal is to give you lifts that will help you merge and bridge those gaps, okay, as we kind of go along through this. So again, you have any questions, open up that Q&A section. Feel free to fire away. All right, quick review on Keegan, my wife, and I run trainingtheolderadult.com right here out of the bunker. This is our home and our garage that we converted into a full recording studio and training studio through the pandemic. Closed our big, 2,500 square foot gym down in Sacramento and opened up full-time up here. Our intention was to do education like this probably 5 to 10 years from now, as our gym was hopefully more successful and things were going great and we had either multiple locations or other trainers. And then I would kind of fall back on an education role. And then the pandemic came and we went full education. Clients aren't coming in. Let's try to do some online with them, but let's get the education up and running. And it's gone really, really well. We've got a very good combo of both of our businesses now. A combination of me training people in here and or online, and then doing education like this with all of you. Our kids, Peyton, Bristol, all of us run out of here, Shingle Springs, California. It's just outside Sacramento. I have a master's degree in personal training, my bachelor's degree in kinesiology, and I am a board member with the NSCA, the National Strength and Conditioning Association. I do currently sit in the personal training seat for the board of directors. I'm coming up on my 3rd year, and considering going into another 3-year term or running for that. Hopefully would get reelected. Why listen to me? In 2004, I was an NCAA qualifier in the hammer throw, where I was ranked 14th in the nation. And for the next 4 years, I was sponsored by Reebok, and I started pursuing the Olympic Games, and eventually ruptured a disc and herniated another one in my back, blew up my back. And the next year, I had to rehabilitate. I climbed Mount Rainier. I started this whole career as wanting to become a international mountaineer at some point, and found out that I had lung cancer. I had a carcinoid tumor in my lung and had my lung taken out and 2 ribs removed and intercostals cut and my lat cut, and it was a major rehab. And 9 months after that, I had an x-ray to check on that lung, and they found that I had another tumor in my thyroid. So I had my thyroid taken out. A couple of years later, I had arthroscopies on both of my hips from just not being a terribly gifted athlete, but just overtraining and overworking myself to death. I basically put about 40 years of work in about 10 years through my body. So I eventually had arthroscopies on both hips and then had double hip replacements. One of those hips, my left one, dislocated about 24 hours after. We had 7 dislocations over the next 24 hours, a night in the psych ward, true story. This is a very fun story. I don't have time to get into it now, but 24 hours later, I had a full revision. So there's my dislocation there. And I've had to, kind of train my body to walk again and to rehabilitate many, many times. I've had hernias, I've had wrist repairs, I've had carpal tunnel surgeries, I've all kinds of good stuff. Basically, I'm the oldest, 42-year-old you're ever going to meet. And that's given me a very unique opportunity to share all of this with you. I steal this line from Alan Cosgrove and Tony Robbins. Life doesn't happen to you, it's happening for you. And that's something that we heavily believe in here. And these opportunities, if I can spare anybody, the opportunity of having to go through discomfort like I did, that's great. But I want you to be able to relate to your older client. I want you to be empathetic and understand. So that's why I tell the stories. That's why we connect with things this way, is so you can have the understanding of what it might feel like or what it sounds like to be 70 or 80 and rehabbing a hip and working through these different movements. That, along with obsessive mind for research and trying to find the most efficient and successful ways to train people, kind of brings together these opportunities and yearly educational opportunities that we put together. We have TO Apex coming up. This is 2.0. We released 1.0 last year, which is kind of our capstone, if you will, a training program that teaches other trainers how to work with older adults at a frail elder, if you will, entry point. We have the 2.0 coming up on August 23rd. Big announcement. I'll jump the shark here a little bit and tell you at the end, but August 28th, Monday the 28th, we'll be releasing that. And if you missed the first one, we have a little bundle pack to save you a couple $100 on that. It's not super expensive. It's not cheap. We want to make things affordable for people. So if this is something that you enjoy and you're like, man, I want more of this, you're going to have 11 other chapters of this to go with something very similar to this one to help you work with your older pop. So feel free to join us for that one when the time comes. TOA Select, all kinds of other good stuff that we have on the website. Okay. All right, let's get into it. The frail elder, that wasn't bad, 10 minutes. That wasn't bad. That's a new record for me to get through all that in 10 minutes. Okay, the frail elder. Okay, we talked about what we're kind of classifying these folks for. This progression of exercises could literally also be just a very beginning green client. If you have a client they've never lifted weights before, they've never done anything before, then when they come in, they may need this soft entry level type movement pattern to figure out how to do this. You'll have people that are just not kinesthetically aware, and they need to learn how to manipulate and move their bodies around, okay? So we're gonna introduce this with a mini band elevated floor bridge. So you might go, oh, I know how to do bridges. We're gonna go through a step-by-step here, and I encourage you to pop down on the floor and like do this with me. But remember, this specific group, they can't get on the floor. So we need to elevate the floor up to them. So I'm gonna show you how we can do that, okay? So we're gonna go into that one, we'll teach you that. And that's along what we'll call the horizontal hinging pattern that's gonna create and help us with our hip flexion and extension, but not under load. Basically, you have as much vertical pressure as your hips are thick, right? Which if I'm laying on my back, my hips are about a foot from the top of my hip to the bottom of my butt. That's about 12 inches, okay? But when I stand up, I'm now 6'4", and I have that much vertical pressure now pushing through my hip. So I want to go horizontal in the beginning to try to deload the hip, to teach it how to work well, how to hip flex, how to hip extend, which a lot of older adults and just under-conditioned, under-trained, under-muscled individuals, they don't know how to bridge correctly, number one. They're just quad dominators. So you're going to teach them to pull to the up position, not push. And you're going to teach them what it feels like to engage their glutes and their hamstrings. And they may cramp and seize up the very first time they do it. We're gonna have to keep doing this, okay? We talk about something called the arthritic grace period. You could really call that the anything fitness related grace period. It's like anytime you introduce something new, the body's gonna need time to adapt. And that will be the same with all of this. As we go through, I'm gonna try to give you like, here's what could happen with folks. Give them time to adapt, but don't go away from it, okay? We do not work around physical limitations. We learn to work with them. Please write that down. You do not work around physical limitations. You learn to work with them, because people are not going to go, oh, I got a bad back, I'm going to have to find another way to pick this box up off the ground. That's not possible. You have to learn how to pick up properly with your back limitation. So how can I train you to help improve your back so you can pick this box up? That's probably the main reason that you came to me too, is because your lower back hurts, right? So we've got to find a way to work with these limitations, not around them. So we're going to encourage that as we go through. We'll start horizontally. Then we're going to go to a vertical hinge. And so now we're just adding vertical pressure and a new component. Now we're going to have to balance and coordinate the body and keep it upright. So we're going to go into that. Notice the mini band as well, because anytime we put a mini band around the top of the knees, you're going to have abduction activation of glutes 2 and 3, medius and minimus. Your glute max is almost always on. The other two are on as stabilizers as well, but it's really difficult to get them to be targeted when you're doing pure hip flexion extension, or in the glutes case, just extension with maybe some external rotation, right? It's very difficult to target that. So in these specific lifts, and in quite a few of them, you're gonna see that we're gonna put a band on just to encourage that abduction activation and encourage the glutes to be more active while we do other movement patterns, okay? So we're gonna do that from the hinge position, standing. And then I'm gonna deload the client by holding a band from above. I'll show you all this as we go. And then we're gonna use a ramp, and we're gonna do some gait steps in what we call a split stance component. So we have a horizontal hinge, a vertical hinge, and a split stance. Those are the three movement patterns that I put on the name of this webinar, right? Those are the three movement patterns, but I want to give you 3 levels of each of those. So there's really 9 things that we're going to learn, okay, as we go through. All right, let me jump ahead here real quick. So watch 2, 3. Here's everybody. You want to grab a screen grab. Do your Command Shift 3 or Command Shift 4 if you want to specifically target where you drag it. And if you haven't done Command Shift 4, that's one that I didn't know about, which is super cool. You do Command Shift 4 and now drag your mouse over what you want it to take the picture of. It doesn't screen grab the whole thing. It just grabs what you want. This has saved me so much time not having to edit my screen grabs, because I do 100 of them every day, okay? So there's all of them on one page. Now I'm gonna go back and do singles, and we'll go through all this, and I'm gonna open the cameras up, right? We're back to this guy now. I'm gonna open the camera up. And Keegan is our second host, but she's feeding on this other camera, so you don't see her snacking away on her on her mountain of meat and vegetables over there. We're going to go through all these, and you'll be able to see these 2 different angles. I understand that one is going to be, a short shot at me, but I want you to be able to see these movement patterns. Now, one other thing that may be a tiny bit annoying, I probably shouldn't even mention it, but my lavalier mic broke. And I have to wear this guy. I was watching The Ultimate Fighter, and they wear microphones as necklaces, right? So basically I have this until my new lavalier. I couldn't get it overnighted here quick enough. It'll be here later today, but my mic is broken. So I hope you don't mind. This works out okay. Oh, it might be up there. Would you run up there? I would be so much more comfortable wearing a mic than this. Like I'm on a Lone Survivor, or not Lone Survivor, Survivor, right? And I got to take my necklace off when I get kicked out. Okay, so our first one, mini band floor elevated bridge. You can use rubber bands. I really like these guys. These are from Angles 90. I don't have any financial connection to any of the equipment I'm going to talk to you about or any of the equipment that you'll see in this room. Okay. So if I'm recommending something, it's simply because I like it. Angles 90, they have these rubber, you can hear it. Hear that? That's the rubber on the inside there. Okay. So it has this little rubber grippy for clients that can't get their shoes on and off very easily. This is a fantastic band to use. And Brett Contreras makes them, BC. Brett Contreras, the glute guy, same company, I think, that makes these. They just put his logo on it. Same with Nick Tuminello, NT Loops. All these bands are great. I don't care where you get them, but if you want something like that, perform better, almost all of them, I think, get them from the same manufacturer. They just put their logos on it, okay? So really easy to go rubber over rubber shoes. So some of your clients can't manipulate and move their bodies all that well. They can throw these guys on here. And then the rubber grippy part on the side, it doesn't pull on the hair as much as a regular like Rogue or Perform Better band will roll and catch your skin, and it's super painful. So definitely not the most comfortable thing, okay? So with this one, we're gonna call this an elevated bridge because I am elevated, right? I am gonna go from the seated position back into the bridge. Now you can see me on either angle, but from this camera particularly, looking at me now, I'm gonna keep constant abduction going in my hip to make sure those glutes 2 and 3, minimus and medius, I'm just gonna refer to them as 2 and 3 from now on, okay? Glute max is number 1, and then 2 and 3 are medius minimus, okay? So those two, and anytime I relax my legs, they're now off. So I'm gonna constantly engage and like get these to bite and be on. So I have that maximal glute engagement. That's super important in creating the stability at the hip. You may, as the trainer, need to hold onto your client's arm and lower them back into position to be here, and then they can relax, okay? Now notice my boxes too. I have two 18-inch boxes, and these two 18-inch boxes don't support my head. So I moved the bench over here too, so I have distance for my head to be on. Okay, now if you're bridging with me at home, please follow along here. This is where I get aggravated with my mic because it moves. All right. So let's go through the proper bridging positions, okay? Everybody do this with me. Tuck your shoulder blades together and create like a little bit of a platform. Was that it? It is? Oh, sweet. Oh, you're the best. I'm so happy. Let me change mics real quick, everybody. I'm sorry to do it live, but this will be so much better. Awesome. I'm so glad you saw that. Sweet. Like that. And yeah. Should I turn on some music for everybody? There we go. Give me just a second. Don't need that. No. So we have a friend of ours, quick story while I'm doing this. A friend of ours in college, we used to get bags of beef jerky every day. And he goes, "Oh, coach, this jerky was really good. I really like the seasoning that you could sprinkle on at the end." And I said, "What seasoning?" He goes, "You know, that little bag of seasoning they put in the beef jerky." And I'm like, what was his name? Phil. And I said, "Phil, you're not supposed to eat that, dude. Like, that's a preservative for the meat." And he goes, "Oh," and I'm like, "How many times have you done that?" And he goes, "More than once." So yeah, that's something to think about. Okay. Of course, I made a big mess of this. Yeah, don't eat the seasoning.
Well, while you're doing that, there's a question here.
Okay.
Any options for people who cannot get down even on your bench? My client doesn't want to get onto the bed.
Yeah, that's a difficult one. Check. Everybody hearing me there? Thumbs up or a little hand wave. Make sure we're good. It should work good. All good? Okay. Yep, good. Excellent. Thank you. This is so much better. Thank you, honey. So the question is, what about people that cannot lay down even on a bench like this? I'm going to show you the second bridging option, the standing vertical one. You just won't be able to do this horizontally, unfortunately. There is a vertical component to a deloaded bridge that I'll show you in just a second. It's very similar to the second one that we're going to do, but this will be this position. If they're not able or not willing to do this, I would start with number 2, with the vertical displacement hinge, right? And we're going to go through. And as they get better at that and eventually get to the point where they can do it loaded, then maybe they'll grow the confidence to go down. Now, other things that you can do is like a 4-point standing with your hands on a bench, and you can start doing like donkey kickbacks, start doing some different things that will target their hips. And that same with these bands on, just like I was doing, those kinds of things can help grow their confidence in their hips. So when they do lay down, they feel confident there. But a lot of times it's a neck issue. Their head's so far forward that when they lay down on their back, that their neck hurts all the time. Take some Airex pads or towels and put them under. A lot of times there's another reason why they're not comfortable laying down, okay? So if I didn't give you enough on that, remind me at the end, we can talk more about it. Okay, this is so much better. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, honey. Okay, so shoulders here. Tuck the shoulder blades together, okay? This is what we're gonna call the platform that you're going to bridge on, okay? Your hands can go out to the side and you would go palm up if you're on the floor, but if you're on a bench like this, I'm just gonna fold them and put them on my chest. Now you see the band is on, I have abduction on, and watch my toes. I'm going to dorsiflex my toes. This is super important. What does dorsiflexing do? It turns on your anterior tib, okay? Anterior tib goes up, think of this like a pulley system. It goes up over the top of the knee, and the counter to the pulley system on the other side is your gastroc, which is a knee flexor, okay? So I now have anterior tib, watch my hands real quick, anterior tib and gastroc, and they're gonna pulley and work together opposite sides. Rather than one side of the joint, anterior tib, just being relaxed, and now my slacked, because of agonist-antagonist activation, if the agonist is just dead, the antagonist can't activate very well. So my gastroc, which is my fourth knee flexor, right? I have 3 hamstrings and 1 gastroc that all flex at the knee. How can I get that one to bite if the muscle opposite, the antagonist to it, doesn't engage and isn't taut? So you want to dorsiflex your toes, and then you want to pull your heels back towards your butt. And as soon as you do that, everybody look at this camera over here, everybody. See me pointing at you? Watch my hamstrings, okay? I'm gonna pull, see how they're turning on, off, on, off, on. Like I'm getting them to engage just by pulling my heels back in my shoe. And then from there, we're gonna then pull our hips up to the ceiling, okay? I don't wanna jump the gun here too quick, but that's the engagement we're gonna get. You might get people right there just go, ooh, that was intense. I know we're spending a lot of time on this, but this is vital. You got to learn how to hinge before we start progressing to any of these other ones. All right, next part to this, before we start to lift and pull, not push, pull to the up position, is we need to think about our sternum all the way down to our pelvis as a wheelbarrowed approach. The entire chest, the entire torso is going to come up. The entire torso is going to come down. Here's what I don't want it to look like. This is what we call floor humping, okay? Where your hips just move up and down. That's going to tear up your back, okay? So here's what you want it to look like. Shoulder blades tucked, dorsiflex the toes, pull the gastroc, and pull to the up bridge position and return back down. Pull up, return, pull up, return, pull up, return. Couple ways to tell if people are doing it right. They'll do one, watch me, they'll do one and they'll go, ah, and they'll grab their hamstrings because that's the first time they've probably ever done one correctly. And now they're like, wow, that was intense. Yeah, your hamstrings just said, welcome to the first time ever training me and getting them to recruit in a bridge position. Because normally we're toes down and we push with our quads, push with our quads. That makes us air hump, number one. And this is how you can tell if people are cheating. They start inching backwards with every bridge. Their shirt starts to choke them and they end up back there somewhere. It's because they're pushing, not pulling. So I'll encourage people, and if they have problems with this, you can put something here like a water bottle or something that if they hit it with their head and they start inching, they know they're doing it wrong, okay? So dorsiflex, tuck the shoulders, go through the steps with me. I like to tuck my chin down, okay? That connects the erectors up the backside of your body and it puts a little tension on them. That's why if you watch Brett and some of the other glute masters out there, you'll see them bridge a lot with their head up. That the erectors, when you put your head down, they're on slack a little bit. So if you want them to be taut so you can activate better agonist, antagonist, the pulleys like we just talked about, lift your chin up and think like I'm squishing a softball against my chest, okay? So you're gonna tuck and then from there, pull, everybody do this, pull, 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 pull. Pull your hips up and stay right here. Now look at your sternum. Did your sternum move or did you just lift your butt up, okay? Pull yourself to this position and just hold it. Now abduct the knees and get that band taut. And you should feel work here. You should be like, woo, there's work. My hamstrings are burning, my glutes are burning, okay? Abductors are on, like everything is on. And then when I come down as one piece. See, I came down together, watch my hands and my chest. Everything pulls up, everything pulls down. Will you turn the music off? I'm sorry. Yeah, I knew there was, why am I yelling? Pull yourself up, pull yourself down. So this is what we call high bridging, okay? High bridges heal hips, low bridges hurt backs, okay? I'll say that again. High bridges heal hips, low bridges hurt backs. You're gonna get clients that are like, I don't wanna bridge very high, it's gonna hurt my back. That low bridge where you just air hump your hips up and down, what's it doing? Butt wink, unbutt wink, butt wink, unbutt wink. If you do that unloaded and it hurts, imagine what it's gonna happen when you are loaded, right? When you are vertical, it's gonna be way, way worse. So keep that in mind. Is like they have to learn how to hinge with the wheelbarrow approach, as their head and shoulder blades are the wheel, okay? And the entire wheelbarrow pulls to the up position and pulls back down. Do you see how this isn't just a lay on the ground and lift your butt up kind of instruction? You have to go step by step here and make people bite and learn each of these steps. Now I'll give you a couple of tricks, okay? Trick number one, if you want to teach hamstring bite, put their heels on a towel or some sliders or on a glute roller and just try to get them to reel their heels out and wheel them back in again. And you'll see them grab at their hamstrings, because a lot of times they have no idea what that feels like. So it's like, hey, let's just introduce the idea of creating hamstring bite so you can learn what it's like to engage these guys. Then we'll try to bridge, okay? So there's one. The other one is if you get to level 2, so our older adult or our sporting older adult or active agers, you're going to elevate their feet onto a box. And basically, I'll show you this too when we get there, but you're going to try to tip the box over when you bridge up, and that teaches bite as well. That's the whole key to this, is this hinge, as all hinges are posterior chain movements. And if you don't train them like a posterior chain, what is the point? If I'm going to bridge and my quads burn, what is a bridge? It's a hinge. What are hinges supposed to do? They're supposed to train your hamstrings. This is a posterior activation. We're doing it wrong, right? But people just lay down and bridge. Oh yeah, I did 100 of them, good. Didn't feel my hamstrings at all. Between this guy engaging abductors and a high squeeze, I don't care who you are or how trained you are. If you do them right, they are going to burn. Now, eventually we're going to load them, okay? But I wanted to go through and spend, a good 10, 15 minutes here to make sure everybody's good with this and they understand how to perform that bridging action. Okay, from there, we're going to do the deloaded action here now. So I'm going to take my bands. You can do this. Are you supposed to see me when I'm talking to the camera? You guys don't see 2 cameras? Anybody in the comment section?
The Q&A section.
Yeah, our Q&A section. You're not seeing this one here?
Cindy says no.
No? What about everybody else? Is everyone seeing 2 cameras? If it's just Cindy, you got to select your other one. Nobody's seeing 2.
No.
Huh.
I pinned that camera. Well, I pinned it, but now it's going to be the new one.
All right. Do you want to?
Not seeing 2. Don't see 2.
Okay. So we pin there. There's that one for sure. And then we can remove pin. All right. Damn, I don't understand why that's happening either. All right. I'll talk to just the main one then. Okay. And then, love, if you want, every once in a while, if I call it, will you just pin it to that one real quick so they can see from that angle? But I'll keep talking to this first one. Okay. So our next position here then, we'll move this guy up a little bit, is to take this to a vertical position. And our vertical position, we are going to what we call deload our bridge. And by deloading, you are going to need some type of high anchor, okay? High anchors can be tethered to a pull-up bar, or if you have like an eye hook, like I have up here, you just hook in your band or TRX or anything like that you are going to suspend it from, just make sure it's loading available. Now, with this particular lift, we don't use fixed straps because you need something that will give and give play, okay? When I grab this band, if I'm easy math, I'm 200 pounds. And if I start to hinge, okay, that band is lightening the load and the pressure going through my lower back. So the goal with this is if I struggle to hinge with my body weight, right, maybe I'm not good at it, or if it bothers me while I do it, I'm going to try to make my body weight lighter, but I'm also going to give them something to hang on to that will help with balance. It'll help with reaction time because they have to kind of coordinate and pull on the band and steer with it a little bit. But as soon as I grab onto something that's fixed, all of that we just talked about, it all goes away. Because as soon as I grab this, right, anything that says try to be balanced, try to be coordinated, that all goes off because I've now grabbed something that's completely fixed in space. So with that, I want to have something in the middle, a tweener, that gives me the opportunity to correct and move in space, but it's also helping me at the same time. And that's where I want 3 different bands up here if you can, where I'll start with, this is an inch long band. So I'm going to get about, 30, 40 pounds of pressure here to help. I'm going to pull my band in. My feet are about shoulder width apart. And as we talked about in the last one, band abduction on. The bands are on, they are taut, okay? So I'm going to go palms up. I'm going to pull this band to my chest and I'm going to hold here tight. And then I'm going to sit back into my hinge. My head will go down in between the band and then I'll return back to standing. Okay. Now this is kind of like the ultimate amount of support that I can get with this band. I could back up and get more, but as far as this position goes, okay. So I'm deloading, let's say 200 pounds here. As far as my lower back's concerned, I'm about 150, 140. I'm just kind of guesstimating. It's about 60 pounds of pressure on this band. It's allowing me now to work and train a range of motion that I'm not terribly comfortable doing without help, okay? So imagine great grandma trying to hinge and do this without rounding her back or feeling like her back's gonna go out. We've given her some support. Now the next step with that is to just let your arms out a little bit more, and I can do the same hinge, I just don't have nearly as much pressure, okay? But again, with every one of these hinges, I'm pushing the band apart and I'm working on hip displacement. So look at the post behind me. I'm going to line my tailbone up with the post behind me. Everybody see that? Now, as I bend over, I'm going to use that word. As I bend over, you see how my hips don't displace very far back? That's a bend over, very toe dominant. Here's a hinge. Watch how far my hips push beyond that post behind us, right? The difference between hip displacement and bending over is learning to let your hamstrings out, learning to let your pelvis tilt, and learning to basically bow, right, into a position where they feel that loaded eccentric stretch. That's the goal. Can I hinge and displace into a loaded eccentric stretch? When we do that to 45 degrees, 60 degrees, eventually 90 degrees of hinge, even better, did you get it? You were troubleshooting? Okay, even better when we get the opportunity to have some support and maybe train a little bit deeper than they normally would, okay? So if I can give them a little bit of support, turn those glutes on, work this big eccentric stretch into my hinge and return, and then go to a lighter band all the way in, lighter band out, and then the lightest band all the way in, lightest band out. My ultimate goal is to be able to hinge with just my hands across my chest or my hands down at my side, anywhere but my hands on my hips, okay? Because as soon as you put your hands on your hips, your shoulders roll, your posture slouches, okay? You always want to keep them upright and engaged with their upper body, pulling their sternum to an upright position and retracting their shoulders to what we call neutral, okay? You're going to hear that cue from me a lot. Retract to neutral, retract to neutral. That doesn't mean we're peacocking where they're trying to touch their shoulder blades together. It means that most of us slouch with our sternum down and we roll our shoulders forward a little bit, and then the head starts to drop forward too. So you're doing this on your cell phone, on your computer, brushing your teeth, whatever else we do. So if we set the sternum up and the shoulders just kind of fall back and then we pull our chin in a little bit, that posture is much better. But every time I put my hands on my hips, it encourages me to fall back into that position. Internal rotation of the shoulder, slouchy support, core stops because the arms are now embracing. So think about that when anytime they're resting and they're stopping to listen to talk to you, like that's the posture I don't want you to do. Okay, posture up, sternum up, let's work on this all the time. Big key component to what we do as coaches is teaching our clients to connect what we do in here with what they do out there. So you'll nod with me with this, okay? Your client goes over to pick up a kettlebell. They round over, they grab it, they come back, they do 10 perfect squats, and then they go back and they're like, I'm done, and they bend over again and they put it back. And you're like, I know you know how to pick things up correctly. You just showed me 10 times, okay? But the problem is they're not aware that that was an official pickup and an official put down. They're only thinking the ones that matter are the ones that are in front of my coach to count my set of 10 or whatever the reps are, okay? Your job is to connect that and say, think about all these things that we're doing. And every time you do a hinge, I'm hinging to grab the clipboard. I'm not going to just bend over and grab it. All of these are copper wire bends that can get straightened back out. Copper wire bend, copper wire bend. And eventually that copper wire just breaks because it's not designed to take those thousands of bendovers like our back isn't. It's designed to stay braced while we hinge via the hamstrings. Think of it like a fishing pole with fishing line, right? Or a cable with a pulley, right? The engine, the motor, the wheel, that's supposed to do the work. Well, those are your hamstrings wheeling you up and wheeling you down and wheeling you up. The back's just supposed to stay stiff, okay? It's supposed to engage in core and be taut while you manipulate and move about it. Now, when we're doing mobility work, different story. But during strength training, movement patterns like this, okay, we want them braced in. All right, tangent over. Okay, loaded ramp gait steps. Now the band's gonna come off. What does loaded mean? What weights do we use? It doesn't matter to me. Loaded means put weight in your hands, okay? And I understand not everybody is gonna have a ramp. So this is a 2 foot by 3 foot chunk of butcher block that's 2 inches thick. You can get plywood and put 2 boards together and staple them together. You can buy fancy ramps. There's all kinds of cool stuff. There's plenty of blocks and things being sold on the internet today where you could create something like this. And very quickly, this is a very in-depth conversation, but basically is for me to take a step forward and push my body weight back, there's an impact and then a driving force to push back that's either 1 to 2 times my body weight to do that. But if the floor that I'm stepping up on is tilted up at an angle, this is a 25 to 30 degree incline, that reduces the amount of load that I'm going to have to decelerate and then push back. But which way is it pushing me? Back to where I wanted to come from, right? So this is drastically easier for me to take a forward step onto a ramp than it is to just take a forward step onto the floor. We're not talking about lunging. We're not talking about split squats. We're not talking about even bending the knees. We're literally talking about a gait step and then a return, but we're gonna hold weight. So you'll have clients that walk like old, Mr. Burns, right? Like they're always using a walker, but they're not. You'll have that walk, and this is where we can train them, either on a tank or a sled, where they have something to stabilize them while they push off, another talk, or on something like this. So we can grab little weights. These could be 5s, they could be 7.5s, I don't care. I just want them to have some load in their hand, okay? And then they come to their ramp, and they're gonna take a forward step onto the ramp, push off their heel, and return to standing. Take this forward step, this is a heel contact. I roll to the center of my foot. I don't need to get terribly toe heavy, just middle of my foot is good. And then push center of my foot back through my heel to return to standing. And I want them to get comfortable rolling on and rolling off, rolling on and rolling off. And what this is doing is 2 things. They're overloading, okay, because they're holding weight. So you're basically getting like a farmer carry component to start. But they're also learning when they take 6-inch steps, they're learning to take less of their body weight, okay? Even though they're holding load, okay? Go with me. They're taking less of their body weight on this incline, and they're able to ascend their step higher. So if they're normally taking 6-inch steps when they walk, on this guy, just to get their own foot onto the board, it has to be beyond 6 inches because that's beyond their foot. Unless their foot's less than 6 inches, nobody's is, okay? So when they step onto there, they're already taking a longer step than they normally would just walking on the floor. So we're training that distance in the gait to improve. Another long tangent that we can go into, but little tiny steps that older people take, they take because they think that's a safer way to go. They walk like they're always on ice because they feel like if my feet get out of alignment, I'm gonna fall. So they're basically a perfectly spinning top, okay? And as soon as the spinning top gets out of balance, what happens to it? It goes down hard. And that's exactly what happens to people. If this was the safest, most secure way to walk, we'd all walk like that. 20, 30, 40, 50-year-olds, we'd all walk like that. But since we don't, we all take these big steps. What's the difference? They've lost the strength, they've lost the stability, and they've lost the ability to take what we would call the 3-step step, which is 3 of their feet, not 3 feet, not 36 inches, but 3 of their feet lengths. So from my back heel, there's 2, there's 3. That's where my front toe should be, okay? After my first 2 steps, accelerate, accelerate, and now I'm up to a regular paced gait. This is how far my steps should be. So how do we train that on someone who's been walking 6-inch steps forever? We need to deload them increase the incline, give them an opportunity to work with less than their body weight. Now, why hold load when we do that? We teach them, just do it. Hey, just get used to this. Okay, you got it? Cool. You feel comfortable? Good. Let's hold weight. Why? I need more muscles on to get them to do an action they've already done. Because I've made this easier, I've just taken 40, 50 pounds of their body weight away that they have to push back. I want them to hold a little bit more, but I want all the muscles of their body engaging. The more muscular activation we have, the better they are going to be at this. If the upper half is on, they're going to be more dynamic and muscularly engaged, especially through the posterior chain, than they will be if I'm not holding on to anything. Okay, remember agonist, antagonist. We talked about that, right? The same idea here, same goes for this. So that is your loaded gait step on a ramp. Now, do you have to have a ramp? No, but will it help? Absolutely, a lot, okay? Look to invest in something like that, or at least build one, okay? And it's not, I mean, you can make one. It's just cut a board and you're ready to go. Underneath it, I have two 2x4s, but we also take dumbbells. Like we'll take two 5s and put them under there, and there's 10 degrees, and you could do two 12.5s, and that's a little higher, and then you could do two 15s. Like you can put any pair of dumbbells, rubber hex dumbbells, under there, and that'll adjust the height. And maybe you put 30s under there and it's way up, right? And they really can work. But as they get better at this, they can start going deeper into their range, and you can actually teach them to do split squats and lunges. But they're working with less load, and they're working in an angle to push back to where they came from. That's the beauty of it, is like every time they go into a lunge, someone's pushing them back and giving them momentum to help them get back there, okay? I know there are some questions I saw just pop up. I want to make sure I get through all these, and I have 20 minutes. I rambled a little bit. So let's keep rolling, and I'll do questions at the end. I'm happy to stay past the hour, obviously, but I want to be respectful of everybody on here. Okay, mini band. So we're on level 2. We're going to the older adult now. Back to the horizontal hinge. And this is our mini band abduction bridge. Basically, it's the same bridge that we talked about where we were laying on our back, okay? But we're not on the floor anymore, or we're not on the bench anymore. We're on the floor if they can, which this group can. And it's the exact same bridge with that abduction activation engagement as you pull up. So we're just going from an elevated position to the floor, same thing, okay? Nothing changes as far as the bridge action goes. Now, what else can you add to that? We can add load. And the way that you can add that load is via dumbbell, via sandbag. You can do barbells if you want to as well. My favorite one with clients in the beginning is to just take a dumbbell and have them hold that right over the crease of their hip while they bridge. And then if they get better, more comfortable with this, they can hold 2. And we basically just take the pronated grip and put them right over their pockets. And so 2 things happen when you do this, okay? First one is, if I'm doing 1, it's fine. 2 is even better, is I'm engaging my upper body while I bridge. So tuck my shoulder blades, lift up my toes. As I pull to the up, if I don't engage my arms, these are gonna fall. So I have to brace and kind of push with my arms. So now the back side of my body is on while I'm bridging. Again, more posterior chain activation engagement is what we want from this. And this gives you an opportunity to kind of brace those arms, get your lats to engage, get your rhomboids, get your posterior delt, get all those muscles to engage to help you think about the idea of like hip thrusting, which is where we're going with this, right? And getting the upper body to counter agonist, antagonist, lower, upper, to kind of meet you in the middle. And ideally like a barbell or a sandbag or a sand roll, something like that works even better, okay? Because you have one big implement that you can kind of push both arms and engagements into, okay? So there's your, again, it would be on the floor. I'm just showing you up here because you're all with me, okay? All right, mini band, goblet, sit to stand. Now the mini band engagement, let me grab my kettlebell. The mini band engagement for this is pretty important. I will take you through 2 steps of this. The first one being anytime you work with older pops, I'm trying to find the number. I think it's, don't quote me exactly, 80 to 85% of those over 50 have acute lower back injuries, and it's like 40 to 50% have chronic. So the majority, let's say, of people that you're going to work with are going to have lower back sensitivity. Let's just go with that, okay? If I'm going to hold weight up and in front of me, think of this as a counter load. If I have weight up and in front, where's the counter weight to this weight? It's in the exact opposite counter to me. So if I'm holding the weight up and in front, it's low and in back. Does that make sense? Okay, taking my frame as the counterpoint. Where's opposite? Up and in front, down and behind. So it would be my lumbar, okay? So if you're working with clients that have weak lower backs, are you like, well, I don't want to hold it there because it's going to train their lower back? Well, remember why they came here, right? Was to address this. It's to improve this. So let's give them a really light weight. I'm talking like a 4 kilo kettlebell, a 2 kilo. Let's start with just like damn light weight, and let's get them training this, because simply holding here, yes, it gets core strength. Yes, you have arm engagement, all those good things, but think about where it counterweights. That's the key to this, okay? Or else I would say triple the weight and hold it down low, but what happens then? It's in the way of the band, right? Now we're losing the other piece to this that's super important for our hip stability, is that abduction activation. I can't work to low load stuff until I know the hips are super stable. And we've got to go through all these other steps to make sure they get there. Because remember, gluteal amnesia is a real thing, okay? Everybody's glute max works. That's the one that you can grab onto, right? Like, that's my glute max. Medius minimus, it's kind of off here. It's not paying attention. It's, hey, I need you to focus. It doesn't focus, okay? It's completely lost. It'll activate on occasion. Our job is to get that thing to bite all the time. That's what this guy does. So almost any exercise that you're doing, if your clients have gluteal amnesia or the weak glutes, throw a band on them, hold tension, do whatever it is you're doing. Do rows, do overhead presses, do whatever. And they'll be like, God, my ass is killing me. I'm like, yeah, I know, that's the point, right? We're trying to fill the gap here, and your glutes are so weak. That's why your hips are so unstable. That's why you're a fall risk, etc. Okay. All right. So I'm holding my weight, considering my counterweight. The closer I hold the weight to my chest, the less counter load on my back. Keep just a smaller fulcrum. Band wise, I have to activate, abduct. I'm pushing my knees apart while I do this. The common cheat is going to be to rock, right? To create momentum. That's a momentum lift, not a pure strength lift. The whole point of sitting down, unloading, and standing back up is the light switch approach to musculature. This makes people exceptionally strong, okay? They sit down, light switch off. They stand up, light switch on. If I don't do a sit to stand, if I'm just air squatting out here, what's happening? Dimmer on, dimmer off, dimmer on, dimmer off, but there's always power going to the muscles. As soon as I have to deload, muscles off, what happens? That muscle and the potential kinetic energy of the slingshot effect of the quads and the glutes, it's gone. All my momentum's gone. So what do I have to do now? Pure strength, baby, every time. Pure strength up, pure strength down, shut it off. Re-engage, shut it down. If you're a power lifter, an Olympic lifter, it's called a single. When you do one single attempt, okay? That single attempt, you're like, there's one and I'm done. It wasn't a triple, it wasn't for 5, it was for a single. We are doing 10 singles. Each one of these individually is an individual attempt, a lot of individuals. It's an individual attempt to strictly focus on the strength, to create all momentum, get rid of all momentum, and create this client's strength-based production as quickly as possible. Because older adults, in this case, every single workout matters, every single one. My dad would miss one workout, we'd go back 2 steps, okay? I mean, it's that vital, okay? Especially over 50, the clock's ticking super, super quick, okay? So every one of these has to matter. With this kind of power-based, that's why power lifters box squat. That's all this is. Sit to stands are a fancy box squat, okay? That's why they do them, because they get you damn strong, really strong. Now, if we do eccentrics into this, oh, even better, okay? You'll light people up, but they work really good, so don't do those too often. You'll make them really sore. Okay, I'm hugging, I'm abducting, I'm forward leaning. We call this advancing to the weight. Okay, that means I'm forward advanced. If this was a barbell, my shoulders would be right over the bar. I've advanced to the weight. And now I'm going to push down with my heels. I'm going to push back with my butt. And I'm going to drive the top of my head up. We call that the triangle. Work that triangle. Heels down, butt back, head up. Everybody see that triangle? Okay, you're all triangles right now. Heel, toe, knee, heel, toe, knee. Knee, hip, shoulder, knee, hip, shoulder. Okay, knee, hip, up to my head, another triangle, my arms making a triangle. All these triangles are very strong. I'm going to push down hard through the heels. I'm going to push back hard through my glutes. I'm going to drive the top of my head up. Control, control, unload, re-engage, go. Control, control, re-engage, go. Every time I do this, you have to hold this standard to make sure they're doing it right. Just those 4 I just did. My ass is burning. Okay, this guy is on one of the best lifts that you can do. That's why it's right in the middle of this package. okay? Those first 3 get you used to doing this stuff, get you engaged. The next 3, super dynamic at the bottom. The sit to stand is the cornerstone of this whole progression for the hip. Get really good at sit to stands, put them in every single workout for your older adults. If you see people twice a week, put these in every single workout, okay? You got to do a sit to stand at some point with every client, or else, in my opinion, you're doing them a disservice, okay? All right, now our loaded drop step lunge. Loaded, again, means with weight, sandbag, kettlebell, dumbbell, sand roll, whatever you want, doesn't matter to me. I don't want them to hang on to a box or hang onto the wall. Why? Takes away stability and support, okay? Where I don't have to do it anymore. I've grabbed onto something like we talked about earlier. So what can I give them? A hiking stick, a dowel rod, a mop. Some of our clients use their Swiffers at home. Doesn't matter to me, as long as it's gonna give you a little ground contact on the floor, that's great, okay? Very quickly, here we go. I'm going to shift my weight to my left leg, reach back with my right leg, shift to a 50-50, lower myself down as deep as I can, push myself back up, and drive off that back toe to come back to the standing position. My right leg is the one dropping, so my right hand is going to hold the stick. I have a contralateral support system with my left leg to my right hand. This will help me balance. If I put it into my left hand, I've got nothing to help me over here. I'm gonna fall right every time. So I wanna counter, okay, I'm gonna contralateral support, counter support. I'm gonna shift and reach, shift to 50-50, down and up, and then return to standing. Now, eventually, this will be much smoother, and you're gonna shift, reach, lunge, and return. Shift, reach, lunge, and return. Shift, reach, lunge, return. And they get into the rhythm of this and the technique of it, but you gotta teach it step by step by step. As you progress with that as well, they can lunge deeper. They can lunge with a bigger step. They can start to use less of this, and then we can start to hold load. Okay, now I'll have people that go, why, if they aren't stable, why are you loading them and giving them a stick at the same time? Why do you think we would do that? Okay, the idea here is they're not strong enough to stabilize themselves yet. So what do they need? Resistance, right? The resistance is what helps their muscles overtrain, good overtraining, to make them better. So if I give them a betweener, a stick support, but I also give them weight to overcome, they don't have to challenge themselves with, I can't balance enough to do this right. I can balance now, and I can do some overload training, okay? Because a lot of these lifts, they'll be limited, like a kickstand or a single leg RDL, they'll be limited simply by their balance. And so it's like, well, let's work on balance training, and I'll stand on one foot. That's not gonna get you better at a single leg RDL, okay? Not even at all. What's gonna get you better at single leg RDLs? Doing single leg RDLs. But how do I do that if I can't balance? Let me give you something that's a betweener in this. Now, how is the stick not just a fixed object? I have to support and move this in space. So it's a perfect betweener. It's just like hanging onto the band. I get something, but not everything, okay? I mean, this is such a key component to this, right? Is having the ability to where they have something to support them, but they still have to manipulate this. I can still fall over with the stick, right? But I have a good opportunity to help myself with this, and I can start to use it less and less and just have it here. Oh, in case I need it, I've got it. Question? Yes. Yeah, the stick itself is going to create a third contact point in which you're going to be able to brace and deload a little bit with your upper body. So yeah, I think that's great. There's an attachment. I'm blanking on the name, but there's a little thing that you can attach to a hiking stick, and there's a handle that comes out this way. So you can have both hands supporting, but via one contact point on the floor, which is important. Like if I had a two-handed walker, right? If there were two of them, then I've always got this counter from one side to the other. But if I could put both hands and have something to engage with, but there's only one support on the ground, that's a tweener between double support and single support, but I can still use both arms, okay? It's a really cool little device. If someone reminds me, I'll see if I can find the link to it and send it to you guys. It basically just screws in to any hiking stick, so you have two hands. Okay, so that's our loaded drop step. All right, now on to our last one here. Keeg, will you come? Are you up for demoing? Okay, cool. So Keeg's gonna do a bridge here for me. This box is a tiny bit high, but I've got my camera stacked up on the other one, so we're not, let me grab this guy. We can do this. 12 inches is perfect for these, okay? 12 inches is ideal. Pop down here for me, babe. Okay. So our goal, now she's barefoot, so this should work, but you'll get the idea, especially with shoes. When we're starting this, pretend she's got her band on and abducting, right? And then don't move the box, just drag your heels, let them hear it, okay? And then push your heels. Yeah, hear that? That's what we're looking for, is that little noise, okay? Now her goal, when she does this, dorsiflex, your cute little toes, pull your heels down and try to get your hamstring. You can see they're on, okay? Asking your client, okay to touch you. I can feel their hamstrings are on. I can feel the gastroc is on. Now I tell her, try to pull this over. Dig your heels in and try to pull the box over. And you'll see them, they'll start grabbing at it because the hamstrings are biting already. Now try to pull it a little bit. And you're like, I'm trying to tip it. And then from there, allow your hips to elevate, pull to the up position. And now everything is on all the way down. Glutes, hamstrings, calves, everything is taut because she's pulled herself to the up and then down, barely touch right back up. Okay, watch her chest as she continues. Put your arms down, babe, so they can see you. Yep, and then when arms are down, we go palms up. So you're externally rotating, okay, the shoulders and the chest, and her sternum is moving. That is the key, the wheelbarrow approach. Air hump for me. Leave your chest down and just glute it. Yep, this is not what you want. She's so trained not to do this. It just hurts your back, okay? Remember, your lumbar now is the pivot point versus the wheel of your shoulders and your head, okay? Awesome, thank you. Much better looking model than I am, so thank you. Okay, so that's your foot elevated bridge. Imagine the band on there, abduction, and then sand roll, sandbag, barbell, whatever you want. I will tell you, lower back and hip injury clients do not like barbells on their hips, even with the pad, even all that. Why? Because there's so much load in such a small little section. The bar is only 1.25 inches or whatever it is wide, right? So when you have all that pressure, if it could be 100 pounds, but because the bar is such a thin little and it's digging down, it's really aggravating. And if you have clients that have fake hips like me, if you've had hip replacements, putting a barbell on their hips, it has to be super high, like above their belly, above the ASIS. Because if it's below, you're encouraging displacement. Every time you come down, you're encouraging it to dislocate, okay? That's why the hip thrust isn't in our criteria of list to go up to, because most of our older adult clients are gonna have hip or lower back injuries, and that hip thrust angle, that deep flexion, it's just a little too much. There's nothing wrong with hip thrusting. I think it's a great exercise if they're healthy enough to do it, but knowing that the majority of our older adults, especially groups 2 and 3, right, the frail elders and the older adults, that deep flexion with load like that, it might feel good in the moment. I joke about this and I'm like, it's like LSD, it feels good, but it's not good for you. Like there are certain exercises where when you break into that hinge, there is traction of the bar pushing and separating your spine from your pelvis a little bit. And it does feel nice. That's a nice traction, but it's too much. And then when you brace and come back up and then you get done and you get up and walk around, you're like, oh man, that actually didn't feel that great. It happens to almost everybody. And if you've had hip replacements, it's not a good thing. You're creating slack and displacement in the joint, and they're gonna have an injury from this, if not a dislocation. Quick question.
Yeah, here. I was told to not go up to your neck area in a bridge to squeeze your butt so tight that it's your butt that determines how high you go to keep it out of your neck.
No, so when we're doing our shoulder blades, come on up here, babe. When we're doing our shoulder blades, the question, if you couldn't hear it, was I was told not to brace and bridge up to my neckline. So when we're doing this, you're gonna squeeze your shoulder blades together, and that's the platform right there that I wanna bridge up to. And then her head and neck are just sitting there on the ground, okay? To even protect those, that's when I pull my chin down so it's off the ground. So I'm not like bracing with my head pushing into the floor. You want your head to just sit there, okay? So to take the neck out of it, just pull your chin down. And that way when you're bridging, your neck has no pressure. But this is the platform, the two shoulder blades that are together, that's where I wanna be. And that's where the floor is going to pivot at. So you're right, we don't want any pressure up on the neck, but I do want the thoracic spine to be moving up and down. Okay, now there used to be like yoga practices and studies where like roll one vertebrae at a time. If you're doing mobility work, Even just laying on the ground, rolling up and down doesn't feel good for me, but I have a whole bunch of injuries, right? So maybe for a good functioning body, that would be okay. But as soon as we add load to this, you want to be in a fixed, rigid position and allow the hip to do its job, which is flexion, extension, flexion, extension. I don't want my spine to do that, okay? I don't want to get on too big of a tangent, but the lumbar is not supposed to move, gang. It's a stabilizer. L1 through 5, they're not supposed to move. They're not supposed to rotate. They're not supposed to do anything. They're supposed to be still. That's why they look different than all the other vertebrae. They all look like little flying saucers and ships. And these ones look like building blocks because they're designed to do this, hold heavy stuff. And then everything else rotates around it, okay? So if you're in a golf swing, you're like, well, there's my shoulder rotation. How do you use your hips to create the rest of it, but you don't do it all via your lumbar, okay? Same thing goes here with our flexion extension. The lumbar should just be still. Here's your wheelbarrow, the wheels, here's the handles. Let me pull up, let me pull down, let me pull up, let me pull down. But we don't want to brace on the neck or pull down with the neck. It's awesome that you asked that because that's a cue that I should instruct is you got to let your neck be relaxed because that bracing, it happens with pullovers too. They'll brace really hard with their neck and it hurts. It should all be between the shoulder blades, okay? Great question. Okay, it's 1 o'clock. I got 2 exercises left. We did the foot elevated bridge. Now, angle 90s, that's these guys. And I have special ones because I'm special. No, I'm kidding. It came with the eccentric flywheel that I got. They partnered with eccentric and they made black ones that were very pretty. But they normally look like our orange ones right there, kind of their signature of the orange color. Now, why do I like these so much? Long story short, there's a very good design for the arthritic hand in this handle. It's fat in the middle, it's narrow on either end, so it fits into an arthritic grip really well. Regular handles are kind of fat, 1.5 to 2 inches all the way through, and it's hard for them to get the big and the little digits to wrap around. But these guys are fatter in the middle, narrow on the end. It fits into the grip really well, and it's curved this way as well. So not only does it fit, but it goes with the curvature of your hand. So for arthritic grips, these are money, okay? Really, really good. So this next exercise, this is our vertical hinge now. We did our horizontal hinge, feet are elevated, loaded, and we're trying to pull the box, right? So now, next to the sit to stand, which is our gold standard exercise, is the rack pull. And the rack pull is the exact same philosophy that I showed you and told you about on the sit to stand, but instead of it being like glute and quad dominant, this is hamstring dominant. So it's basically the sit to stand for the back side of the body, okay? So I've got my handles, I've attached to a kettlebell. Why? Because I'm gonna put this on the floor and I need to be able to hinge deep enough to where I can deload the weight. See, my arms have gone slack. I can deload the weight, but my back is still in a good position. If this is as deep as I can hinge and the only way I can get it to the floor is to round over, there was no point in me doing that, okay? Because I just loaded a poor posture. So what I want is to be able to hinge proper, and at the bottom of my hinge, the weight can deload. Light switch off, right? And now I'm gonna tighten my shoulder blades and pull with my hamstrings back to the standing position. Light switch on. Stretch eccentric, light switch off. Light switch on. It's the same philosophy, same idea. Sit down, take away all the momentum, pure strength up. But instead of quad and glute dominant, I'm now hamstring and glute dominant as I work through my vertical hinging pattern, okay? I can answer questions on that one. You can use T-bells, you can use kettlebells with plates stacked up underneath them like rubber plates so they don't slide around. You can use D-blocks. If you have D-blocks, those are basically like big Legos, right? Literally big Legos that you can stack up on. And they're like 12 by 18 inches and they're 2 inches and they're designed 2-inch increments. And they're designed to have Olympic bumper plates like dropped on them, right? So they're super heavy duty. They're expensive, but really great. You can do step ups on them, you can bench press on them, and you can drop stuff on them. And so you could do like this kettlebell without handles and 4 D blocks. And as they get more, flexible and more capable, you could remove one and go to 3 D blocks, something like that, okay? So that's a good one for the hinge. I love the rack pull. Our last one is a loaded. And anytime we load, in my opinion, I prefer to load one side and not the other, okay? I really like that. I have seen drastic changes. I promise I'll wrap up. Give me like 4 minutes if you guys have to scoot. I get it, but I want to wrap this in just a second, and then I'll stay as long as you want for Q&A. When you hold weight on one side, the core activation is much greater than if you have weight on either side. Because basically, if I have 8 kilos and 8 kilos, The weights counterbalance themselves. I just have to kind of hang on. Yeah, it requires strength and postural analysis, all that good stuff. But I don't have a negative counter if I relax. If I hold weight in my right hand, I have nothing in my left and I relax, it forces me into lateral flexion, forward flexion, right? And so I have to anti-rotate and I have to stabilize and keep myself postured while I do the lifts. So I like to do like a suitcase style, most of these if we can. We're gonna do that forward stepping ramp plus the drop step lunge. We're gonna do parts 1 and part 2 together, and we're gonna make a complex out of it. I'm gonna forward step lunge, push off my heel, go straight back into my drop step lunge, push off my toe. Forward to my heel, back to my toe. Notice the weight. The weight basically just kind of stays here, and I'm gonna move and manipulate around it. 30% of falls go forward, 70% of falls go backwards and at an angle, okay? So I'm practicing the two most common directions. It's like 29% and 71%, and then 3% goes that way. So I get it, okay? Not exact perfect math. Point is most of them go that way. Some others go this way. And if we can practice those two actions, where if someone's walking and they catch their toe and they have to throw that foot out, here's what they don't do. They don't do a short, and they accelerate that fall. They do one thrown out foot in exactly the right spot to brace, decelerate and stop, and or push back to where they just came from. That's the difference when I was talking about President Biden. Nothing political involved here. He did not have the strength to throw his foot out in front of him far enough to decelerate his momentum and either stop it, arrest the fall, or push back. He went down hard instantly because there was no counter reaction to even try to get his leg out. Just toast, okay? That shows me a under-muscled individual. Didn't have it, doesn't practice it. So that's 30% of the time this way. The other one is I've got groceries or my coffee and I'm backing up and I catch the curb and I take a short step, okay, as I start to counter backwards. And that short step was too short. And so I do another one, and we end up doing this, added momentum, boom, and you go crashing down hard. As opposed to, they'd be better if they just went, I'm gonna fall, and if they just timbered, right, and just went down, that would be better than try to save it short, hit the ground really fast. So what do we do for this? Learn to lower your center of mass, throw your foot back, okay? That's the kickstand RDL. That's the drop step lunge. That's the drop loaded gait step. That's all of these that we practice. The intention is, if I'm going to move in any of these directions, let me get stable, let me learn how to self-arrest and push myself back to return. Now, once the hip is really good at forward and it's good at backwards, the last addition, this would be exercise number 10, would be to do lateral gait steps, where they're learning with weight to push off laterally. And now you've trained around the hip in the majority of the directions that you're gonna go, in the majority of the areas you're gonna need help in. You've trained almost all of that, okay? With 3, I'll say, easy progressive steps. Hopefully you felt like I can follow all these, I got good instruction on them, and you feel good doing these with your clients. That is our goal, okay, is to kind of get you to that position where you feel good about it. All right, questions? We're gonna stop that one. Gotcha, thank you.
Yeah, so one that's kind of relevant that was just asked was about the bridge. Can you support with a yoga block for people with kyphosis in a bridge? They were told not to do that.
Support under the neck, is that what you mean? I'm assuming that's what you mean. A yoga block's pretty stiff. I probably wouldn't do that. A bunch of towels, the gym towels, like not a face rag and not a shower towel, those 18-inch ones, get 2 or 3 of those and kind of fill in, because then it has some give that goes in there. But remember, the goal isn't for them to brace down with their head. You just want it to be supported while they do the proper bridge via the shoulder blade, okay? So I would give them something, because sitting there, if they they're so kyphotic, their head's stuck forward. When they lay on the ground, they're like, they're holding their head, and you can see their sternocleidomastoids on, like everything's straining to hold their head there, because they can't just relax it and let it lay down. They're stuck in that forward position. So it's gonna be really uncomfortable. They're gonna want out of that position very quickly. And they'll basically just air hump to get it over with and then be like, okay, let's get out of here. So if you support it up well, give them some support and say, cool, are you comfortable here? Now let's work, okay? I think that's good. Or I've seen people use Bosu balls. I'm not a big fan of the Bosu ball, but I think this is an area that you could use it for, is just slide the Bosu ball right up, underneath their head and let the back of their head just sit on the squishy blue part. I think that could be fine too.
How do you know that you have trained someone enough forward and back before you ask them to move lateral?
I would say you're able to do that forward and back lunge on what I would call a 1-to-1 tempo, okay? And they have load in hand and you feel confident, you don't have to stand next to them, okay? So if I'm watching my client and they literally look like this, okay? Am I gonna load them? No, okay? Like F no. They're not ready for load. But once they get to a point where they're like, I got it, I got it, I got it, I got it. Okay, now let's hold some load and let's work on going a little deeper. Okay, I got this. Like you wanna see consistency and smoothness and you're like, they own this. When they can do that, I don't have to stand next to that person, the one that I just did, but this guy, I need to stand next to them because they're gonna grab at you anytime they start to lose, like you need to be next to them. So I would go lateral once I'm able to do those forward and backs and I don't feel like I have to stand next to them all the time, like they've got it, then I would say, cool, let's go lateral. Some people would say you need to train lateral stability earlier. Remember, we did train lateral stability all the way through this, gang. Anytime that band was on, what were we doing? Training the lateral stabilizers of the hip, okay? So you've trained lateral stability a lot. That's why we can do forward and back so well. Where is life lived? Forward and back, mostly forward, falling backwards. The 1% of lateral movement that we do, we'll get to that now training into this, okay? But that shouldn't be addressed in the beginning. They're not stable enough to do it yet. You gotta wait down the line. I would love to start doing vertical tosses and frog jumps with them, but they're not ready for any of that, right? Like you gotta baby step this the right way. And that's the key. Okay, get to the point where you're like, I know they can do this, let's go to the next step. Not, I hope they can do this. We do not hope lift, we know lift, K-N-O-W. I know you got this, okay? I know you can do it. Let's add a little load. Now I know you can do that. Let's go to the next one.
Just a couple of comments up here that we can read later, but Becky had a question about training on the education side with you and wanted you to speak on some training opportunities that you have. So any mentorships, ambassadors.
So we offer a lot with TOA. If you go to the website, you'll see a little chart and it shows like if you're an independent trainer, if you're running your own business, how long you've been in the industry, and it gives you options of everything we have. We have internships and mentorships. We have TOA Select, which is a giant search engine for anything and everything you need for training an older adult. Okay, we have that.
I was gonna say on that, Cindy.
Yeah, I saw Cindy's comment.
Yeah.
Cindy says, I highly recommend TOA Select and TOA Programming. We write programs for you to use, and thank you, Cindy. Robert's instruction and all of the information at TOA has changed my way of training my clients immensely. My clients love it too. That was a lie. I was reading that. I didn't just tell you guys that. You can see it on there. But yeah, so TOA Select it's a certification. So you do get to be TOA certified, right? And you're powered by TOA as we go through that. And that's a logo you get to use, like you're part of the team then. We have ambassadors. They're basically a little bit level up from the basic entry where you can do mentoring with me. I meet with people once a month, twice a month, every week, like whatever you need, okay? We'll go all the way up to the point where we're working with teams if you have multiple employees and we implement programming and marketing and emails, and we kind of do a little bit of it all, but we call it an affiliate program versus a franchise or anything else. We provide information and help, and if you choose to use it, then you do. We help you brainstorm, we do that, but you don't have to do it. You don't have to call yourself a TOA. You don't have to do anything. We just provide info. That's what affiliates do. We support you. And so that's what TOA Select is. It's a giant support system. It's our certification. It's 12 chapters, little video chapters, self-paced. You're now TOA certified. And then after that, you've got a giant exercise library, like 1,100 exercises between the exercise library, the mobility library, all the physical limitations. We've got 1,500 hours worth of stuff. You can just like Google search in TOA Select and go hip and you'll get 11 videos. Cancer, you'll get 4 videos. Soccer, you'll get no videos because I don't like soccer. I'm kidding. Golf, tennis, like anything that you would train someone for, it's a giant search engine. And my goal is to have something in there for whatever you're searching for. Like, how do I train a client that's preparing for hip surgery? There's 4 videos for you, right? It's like to provide you everything. So we're adding to it literally every week. I add more stuff to that. And it's just a constant influx of content all there for you. That all the way down to weekly mentoring. We've got all kinds of good stuff. So you can check that on the website or just shoot me an email. Let me put up my email info here for everybody. So you can contact me if you need anything. There's my info and our website. And again, August 28th, okay, TOA Apex 2.0 coming out. And if you weren't part of the first one, it would definitely help to be that. The first one was like $310. It was a live course that we taught, and we were on all day long, and we did Q&A, this and that. So because you missed all that, we've cut the price down to $200. And then the TOA Apex 2.0 is going to be a virtual course, kind of like TOA Select. It'll be self-paced. We'll release them over a week, and you can go through that. So you can bundle it and get both of them for 200, or you can do, 400, 200 each, or you can do TOA Apex 2.0 for $199, $200.
And that price will only.
Yeah, that's the early bird price. That'll stay until I think August 14th, 2 weeks before the price goes up. All right, other questions? What else did we have? Is that everything?
I answered some of them. Angles 90, did you show any other straps besides Angles 90?
So,
straps, just wanted to make sure.
yeah, the Angle 90s, and by the way, let me give you a discount code. Again, I don't make any money, I promise. I don't make any money from this. Linkle 10 is my discount code for Angles 90. You get 10% off. So if you want to buy anything, they have pulleys. We use the pulleys. Any of the videos you see with the pulleys, I put paracord on it, 550 paracord, so I can make the pulley rope height exactly what I want versus a 10-foot cable that it comes with. But their pulleys are fantastic. The only plastic composite pulley on the market, where all the other ones are metal and you get like metal shavings all over. So that's Angles. They make the bands, they make the handles, they make the pulleys. We use muscle butter a lot ourselves. Keegan and I probably have it pumping through our blood, but our clients use that a lot. It's an arnica rub that people can use for inflammation, any inflammatory response, joint issues, all that. It's like a 60% arnica, which is really hard to get a hold of that much. It's a super great product, and I love that. And then Hyperwear is the one we get asked about a lot. All of our clients own vests, and they go for a walk with a vest on. And then the ones that we have in-house here are either Rogue or Hyperwear. And Hyperwear they make great products, but TOA 15 is the code for Hyperwear if you guys want to get anything from them. As far as handles or accessories or anything else, nothing really specific. The Angles are really the good ones that we use a lot. The fat bells, that's another piece that has been big for us. Like when you think of the hex bar for the back, right? Like I'm in the middle of the weight. So there isn't that counterweight. We were talking about the weight up in front, down and back, right? Or if I'm holding a kettlebell down in front, now between my shoulder blades, the counterweight. When you're in a hex bar, it's evenly distributed right down the middle. I'm waiting for the hex bar that has 2 plates on this side and 2 plates on this side. And so it's 4-point loaded, and then you truly are right in the middle of it, right? I think that would be super cool. I think that would be hard to balance, but a right way to do it. Long story short is the hex bar is a center mass for your back. The fat bell, okay, those ones, the little circular guys look like pots and pans over there, that's a center mass bell for your hand. And so clients that have wrist and elbow injuries and such, drastic difference when we use those. I have dumbbells in here to do demos for all of you, and that's literally all we use them for. That and like shoulder raises, because the lightest fat bell is 9 pounds. So we'll use the little dumbbells, but that's it. When you're holding a dumbbell, you have a weight on either side, and there's no weight really to brace in the front. So that's why our wrist accessibility to injury side to side is so great, because it only works in a stabilizing fashion. There's not a whole lot of movement there. When your hand's in the center of a center mass bell or a fat bell, then the weight's distributed all the way around it, and you can kind of circumduct almost the weight in your hand. It's just a lot easier on your hand, your grip strength. So if you ever get a chance to check those out, I would encourage those. Pretty cool product. Fit 45, the Mark Wahlberg brand, they have a product that they buy from Power Systems, and it's called the Y Bell. And basically you put your hand, it's a triangle and a handle in the middle. And so it's kind of the same idea. Your hand goes in the center of it, but you can move your hand to the top part and it can be a kettlebell. And so you can have kind of a kettlebell dumbbell combo. They're just super expensive. I think Cindy, if I remember, you were going to buy some, or maybe you did, but they're super expensive, like 3 times as much as any dumbbell, but you do have 2 implements in one. So I guess that's the perk. All right. Any other questions? I'm happy to chat, team. You can tell I love to talk. I love it that we still have so many people on here, even though I'm 20 minutes over. I guess we didn't really say it was an hour, right? I just said it starts at noon, so we could go 2 more hours. Go ahead.
Becky I just wanted to share with you, she said that she enjoys all of your videos, but she shared your recent one with President Biden with her clients.
Oh, good, good. Thank you, thank you. I'm glad you like. Yeah, I'll be honest with you guys. I was nervous about doing this one because, anything political is always going to be, it's always going to be a hot topic, and I don't like hot topic. I don't like people getting mad at my content. Like I want to provide stuff and happy. So I really wanted to be like, this is why this human being fell down, but it's the most famous fall right now. So it's like, can we just look at him as a person and say what we see without any of the political stuff getting in the way? I feel like I did as best a job as I could in doing that. And I'm pretty happy with it. I want to do a part 2 and kind of go like, if Joe called and was like, Rob, I want you to train me, what would we do? I'd want to, if Joe, my buddy Joe, if Joe called me, Joe and Donald, if they both called and they were like, we want to start training, what would I do for those 2 individuals? I think that could be kind of a fun, like, where are they now? Like, what would I do with Joe? If I had him, what would I do with Donald? Those would be 2 very different training programs. One for fat loss and the other one for strength gain. Anyhow, I'm an independent, if you didn't get that joke. Any other questions? Hopefully you all enjoyed this. I freaking love talking. So,
Thank you, Leslie.
Awesome, Leslie, thank you. Thank you. Well, hey, you have my email. Let me throw it up there one more time before I sign off here. I'll put this up here one more time. It's super simple, robertlinkle@gmail.com. Head over to the website, trainingtheolderadult.com. If you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel yet, just put in my name. You'll see that pop up. I think we have, 200 and something plus videos on there. We've got all kinds of good content out there. Instagram. Yeah, you get to see Keegan's food consumption and these awesome webinars like this. We try to keep it, professional, but also real. And, life happens. Our kids run in and out sometimes, and, we eat lunch, and like, this is life. We like, look, there's the house. There's the dog. Like, that's it right there. That's us. So we try to keep it real. We are as we say we are. Like, this isn't a show that I put on in front of camera and then I'm different in person. We're as genuine as we can be. And even though I want to be very professional when I do these presentations, I also want you all to see us as real people. And this is how we do it. There are coaches out there that coach and teach, but they're not training clients anymore. And then there are great trainers that are training, but they don't teach. And it's like, I want to be able to walk both of those and share this and say, here's what we've worked on. Here's what I've researched. Here's what we worked on. Now I implemented it in here, and this has worked really well, anecdotally and in the research. Now let's put it into action. That's what TO Apex was. It was me taking all the research from my dad, taking a person that you can watch that video on Instagram. You'll see it. It's a tribute to him. He just passed away 2 weeks ago, yesterday. And it starts with him in the hospital, and he can barely sit up out of the bed. And it goes all the way through, just sit to stands, all the way through his progress in that. It was like 17 little 3-second videos, and it's clip, clip, clip. Apex is all of those little betweeners to get him to be able to do that for the squat, hinge, movement pattern, for the pull, for the press, and for the carry. We did those 4 things step by step by step by step. I chronicled all of that, and I put it into a package and sold it to all you guys. And like, here it is. Here's how to do it with a person like that to get them back to being capable. And then 2.0 took dad from capable to actually athletic. Like, he was able to do some pretty athletic things at the end, like the 50 sit to stand test. No way he could have done that before. He wanted to do the 150. Like, we were building to that, right? But he did the 50, which is our frail elder test. And I loved it. I loved it that he was able to do that, because you see him get out of bed on day 1. You're like, this guy won't be able to do 5 of these, let alone 50. He set PRs for deadlifts off the floor at 65 pounds with a sandbag. He was pushing the tank to the fence and back in 18 seconds. Like, he was doing performance and loads like we have in strongmen, where he'd load a sandbag and I'd take it down and he'd load the next one. Like, those were competition style training events for him. And so that's what 2.0 is like, how do we get people to that next level and kind of keep them going along? Dad was the guinea pig. He was the practice on all of that. And then I got those ideas from research that I was reading and through looking at strong men and throwers as these kind of elite, well-rounded athletes. They've got to be really strong, but they also have to be conditioned, and they have to be fairly mobile. And then in times and bouts, they have to be able to push and pull and carry on all these weird different angles with different implements. That sounds like a good way to train people for life. And so that's where we start to plug in the strongman components and the throwing of implements components to make him a little bit more athletic. And it worked really well. I mean, up till 2 weeks before he passed, he was here pushing the tank and throwing stuff. And then he got sick, and that was that. So anyway, that's what Apex will be, is that process of how we literally do it in here. It's not just a philosophy. It's not just me reading a research paper. It's actual hands-on application, supported with libraries, supported with day-by-day workouts. You get 8 weeks of every single workout 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way through. And then I give you, that's the beginner one. And then I give you the intermediate one, but I'm not going to do 2 libraries. So you're going to get the first one, and the intermediate one, you'll know how to do all that stuff. I'm just going to give it to you at that point. But literally a video with every single exercise. You can access it all on your iPad or your phone. Anyway, enough shameless plugs. You guys get it. If you're interested in that stuff, you can check us out.
So Janet Wright, thank you so much for the great session. I am not a trainer, but interested for myself. I love your videos. As a result of the falls, one, I advise my 91-year-old mother to stop wearing slip-on slippers.
Yeah, good one. Yeah, that was where I was talking about Dad wanting to put his feet into those little slip-in shoes, and he was pretty adamant about it. Like, we had it out a little bit. He was like, I just want to, and I'm like, you got to be able to access and get down to your feet. Like, that's one of those things. That's a component of life, is reaching, hinging, bending. And if we're just going to slide our feet, you're never going to do that, right? And that's going to be a lost skill. Another one, like if I don't put my arms over my head, that's as high as I can go. I didn't get a frozen shoulder because I'm injured. I got a frozen shoulder because I literally never put my arm over my head anymore. So small little gait steps, frozen shoulders, can't touch my toes. Those are all things, and those shoes only add to that. But then as they're shuffling along, that shoe slides off, they trip over their own shoe, lights out. 70%, as we talked about, they don't recover from that, especially in 91. Bad news.
Francine, so nice. She says, thank you both for doing this. You are genuine, which is what I appreciate about you. I missed the first 3 quarters, so I look forward to the recording. So the recording should be at the same link.
Yeah, and it takes...
If it is not, I will check it and I will send it to you. So
yeah,
no worries.
It should be, if you can't hear, it should be on the same link, and it takes like 25-30 minutes to do an hour of conversion. So it'll be on demand on the Zoom link that you have. I would say in about 25-30 minutes, and then you can watch that first half. And if you don't, I'll put it on YouTube. We're gonna put this up on YouTube as well, and anybody that's on Select, it'll be put in there too. So we'll make sure you get to see it for sure. But so glad that you're here and you were able to catch the last quarter and all my other ramblings on here as well. But yeah, it's got some good stuff in it. Look forward to you seeing the rest of it and telling me what you think. All right. Hey, Steph, method 3, nice. I just looked at some of the videos this morning, you guys doing your battle ropes and some of the other stuff. It makes me really happy to see some of the things that we went through together, you're all implementing them in there now. And I can see the pieces coming together as it goes. It's cool. As a teacher, that feels very rewarding to see those practices being done. It's very cool. Proud of you guys. You're crushing it down there. I'm hoping, we're not going to call it the Frail Elder Group, but I'm hoping we get that Frail Elder class going down there and we can start training with folks with this, because I talked to John about it and hopefully that will go. But getting all of you into Apex 2.0, that'll arm you for that particular demographic. That will be really good.
Here's one that says, I'm Eve, thank you. Don't know why I come up as anonymous. That's all right. It's a witness protection, we get it.
We know Eve, we know it's you.
Yes, wink, wink. This info is invaluable, and I look forward to getting more of it when we get into Apex.
Nice.
I am motivated.
All right,
awesome.
Very good, Eve. Yeah, that's and Eve, I'm assuming you're a trainer, right? Because that's what Apex is for the trainers. Now, general consumers, you're more than welcome to look at it, but it's taught from the training side of it.
Yes.
If you need, okay, good. Okay, because every once in a while we get people that sign up for Select and they're like, I don't understand, where are the workouts? And we're like, oh no, that's you hit the wrong link. That's the other side of the website, right? Is where we work with the clients on there. So yeah, that's sweet. I'm looking forward to you experiencing Apex. And again, always feel free to reach out to us. We're always happy to help.
Yeah, it's so sweet. Doretta here says, so sorry for your loss. This webinar was awesome. Thank you, Doretta.
Yeah, thank you. It's something that obviously everybody is either going to experience or has experienced. And so there's one of those things where you're like, I know what you're feeling. And the amount of emotion and outpour of feelings that I've got from people through Instagram and Facebook and just people shooting me text messages of, I remember when my father passed and it's been 8 years and I still cry every once in a while. Like that has been so comforting on my end because I'm fucking heartbroken, to be honest with you guys. Like it's really rough, man. Like my dad was my best friend. Like other than Keegan, my dad and I were just tight as shit. And it's like really difficult to not have him here. After a webinar like this, I would call him and tell him how well it went and how many people we had on and all that. And it's really difficult to not have him here anymore. And so when you get to hear from other people that talk about those experiences, it makes you feel a little bit more normal and not like you're alone. So I appreciate it. I appreciate you making those comments. Everyone that's reached out and said that stuff, I really appreciate it. It's been really comforting. I know I'll miss him. I'll miss him forever. And you know, it's a part of life. And I had like 2 days after he passed away, I did a presentation for the guys in Turkey, and the guy that runs the program there, his name's Engin, and he goes, sorry for the loss of your father. The way that we think of this is he's not gone. His spirit and his intention in life and his dharma and everything else that he has now transfers onto you, and you carry him with you moving forward. And it was like, that was exactly what I needed to hear. 2 days after losing him, they wanted to cancel that webinar, and I'm like, no, man, you guys have scheduled this, we're good, and like, I'm ready to go. And so that was a really cool thing for him to share. I'm taking that very literally, that I want to, live a very similar life to my dad, because he was such a genuine, loving person that always saw the best parts in people and was always just an outpouring of good energy to them. I can only hope to be half of that, if not more. And always hugged like he would never see you again. That's something that I want to embrace and do as well. I feel like I've done a decent job of that, but that guy, he was a good hugger. Anyway, enough of that. I appreciate you all. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Any other questions, comments, anything else before we head out? This was fun. I love doing these. We should probably do them more often. I like doing this. The YouTube videos are fun because I get to talk to the camera and I get to ramble for a bit, but it's nice to have questions coming back and have some engagement with everybody. This is cool. So, all right, we'll wrap it up. I hope you enjoyed it. Those of you that made it this far, you're awesome. Everybody's awesome, but for those of you that stuck all the way through this, thank you so much. Love and appreciate you all. Have a great day. If there's anything that we can do for you, comments, questions, shoot us emails. We're here for you. And final thought, when we're pursuing our efforts and what we do with our clients, with our people, our line, and I end every video with this, is continue to fight your good fight against sarcopenia. Because at the base of any disease and any injury is muscular weakness. And those that are able to establish and maintain muscle mass as they age are so much less likely to experience any of these diseases, cancers, injuries, hip replacement, all of this. Okay, the key to a longevity life and a happy longevity life is strength. And so that's why we end everything with that. Continue to fight your good fight against sarcopenia. Keep lifting, keep striving, keep training. All you coaches, you are a huge motivation to your people, because not everybody speaks fitness, not everybody likes fitness, but they're there because of you. Because you're putting in time to learn things like this to bring back to them. You're doing them a great service. So thank you. I love and appreciate you. Continue to fight your good fight against sarcopenia. Take care.